Hi, everyone. So we are here for our last talk of the day. I am super excited to be with Esther Hare from Apple. Esther, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.
So for those of you who don't know Esther, I feel like I'm not going to be able to do justice to your background, but 15 years at Apple, started your career as a programmer and now senior director of worldwide developer marketing, and executive sponsor for women at Apple. You're working on so many incredible things, and I hope we're obviously not going to be able to dive into all of them, but hopefully some of the key ones. And you're a huge supporter of diversity and women, and we're going to be able to talk about all of it. I want to start with Apple Entrepreneur Camp. And for people watching who might not know what that is, why don't we just start with what is it and what's the purpose?
Yeah, so Entrepreneur Camp really is something that sort of we started because we really believe that if we're going to make apps for an app store that serves everyone, then we need apps to be made by and reflect all the very needs and interests of the entire population. We can't just have a subsegment of folks creating apps for the app store. And so, we look at this and we really believe in the genesis of like apps for everyone should be made by everyone. And yet we know that female founders and developers face unique challenges at every step of the way. Preaching to the choir on this one, I totally realize. But that's why we created Entrepreneur Camp. We really wanted to, help companies that are working on the next generation of apps, whether that's using machine learning or AR. We wanted to accelerate them, motivate them, support the apps, and the companies, but also to form a global network of female founders and developers, so that we can help to encourage this pipeline and longevity of women in tech. We know from Women at Apple and the work we do there just how important community is. And we really want this program to, inspire more women to get involved in the iOS community, and really, take advantage and take their share of this thriving app economy. And so Entrepreneur Camp itself sort of started as got its genesis from a worldwide developer conference, which some folks might be aware of. And we see folks that, they come to the lab at WWDC and they bring their own laptops and they bring their code and they sit one-on-one with Apple engineers and they ask questions about their own code. And folks will often leave after 30 minutes of the lab and they'll say, wow, that 1.5 hour with an Apple engineer really saved me months of development work. So, we started thinking, what if we could take that intensive hands-on, technology experience, and instead of 30 minutes, what if we could bring these female founders together and work with them for 10 days and work, one-on-one with Apple experts and engineers. And this is a highly customized experience. We customize it for each developer, who they need to work with, what sort of issues they're going through. And we bring them in and we go through their UI, their UX, the frameworks they're using. We talk through their business models. We introduce them to Apple executives and leaders, across, whether it's a technology leader or somebody from the I&D team to talk about community. We really do a lot of community discussions, and we really understand how important community is. And we're incredibly proud of the progress and the success of some of these apps that have come through so far. We've had 54 companies, 130 attendees from 16 countries, one of whom was incubated right there at Station F, Wishupon, which is a shopping wish list app from Korea. And it was really great for us to really learn more about your program and the incredible work that you're doing at Station F. And when they came to us, their users were a little bit confused when they opened the app, where they could see and find certain things. And so we really worked with them a lot on the UX. They have speakers, they have users from 25 different countries, all in different languages. And so we really helped them with their iconography, and a lot of those pieces, as well as the technical issues that they were working on. We've had apps from places across Europe. Actually, a couple of my favorites we've had from the Dots, from the UK. Sorry, the Dots. We have Carrier, who's a menopause app. which I may or may not be using. We have, apps from Slovenia and Armenia and a couple from Spain. So Abulite, they're the makers of the app RC Club, which is an AR racing simulator. They actually came to camp with a great game, already doing really great. But by the end of camp, they had moved it to an Apple Watch app. And now they have actually the full 3D first-person game using watchOS and SceneKit. And what was interesting for them is really learning how important simplicity is. How much work goes into making the user experience simple, which of course is the Apple way, right? It's simple and intuitive. And of course, they also brought their little baby with them from Spain. So that was an extra sweet treat for us. We love that integration of family and work. And talking to babies, actually one of my other favorite apps that's come through is Lactap. They're from Spain, and they provide customized breastfeeding information. But the story is so moving and so compelling. And I think it really speaks to how women can take part in this app ecosystem using their own real experiences. So Maria, who's the co-founder, she was actually hit by a car and hospitalized for a couple months after she had her baby. Wow. And she was in the hospital really having a difficult time breastfeeding. And so she had turned to experts for help and realized just how important that connection was for her to have this connection with her baby through breastfeeding. And so when she eventually got out of the hospital, she co-founded Lactap as the sort of breastfeeding experience in your pocket. And when they came to camp, they were very popular, but just in Spain. And now that this virtual tribe worldwide, I think they have like 80,000 inquiries every week coming into the app. And so, we see just this huge transition of folks when they come in, what their app looks like at the beginning and what it looks like at the end. And, it's my program, so it's definitely, part of, what drives us. But I don't think we've had one closing presentation where we haven't had at least one company in tears. And a lot of that comes from this sense of being accepted and the sense of community. We have this, crazy idea that, we're not worthy and it shouldn't be us. And even though out of thousands of applications around the world, these women are selected, they come and they say, well, I wasn't sure if it was really me and maybe you didn't mean to accept me. And so at the end, we hear these stories of really feeling like they were accepted as part of this community and how much it helped them in their confidence. And so we just want to keep at it. We've had apps for, solar, education, mental health, games, fitness. I'm sure I'm missing millions, shopping. But I think what this really is it speaks to the diversity of apps that women founders can bring to the table. It's not just menopause or breastfeeding apps that are so critical. And frankly, men are just not going to do the best job at making them. But it's the full gamut. It's women are doing incredible things in every space. And we've really been thrilled to support them with Entrepreneur Camp.
Super. It's just, I remember the first time I heard about it, I was like, that is the best resource you could offer to anyone making an app. Hello, go to Apple, work with Apple making your app. And you kind of just shared a little bit of like the fact that people will show up with something that's kind of starting to work and they'll leave with like a real professional tool. And you shared some of these like crazy, like just the locations and the like everything from like a race car to menopause, like the gamut is huge. So I can totally see what you're saying when you say that actually the variety, you have a diversity of apps has to come from a diversity of creators. I'm wondering, how do you identify people? How do you pick them? Like, what are you actually looking for when people apply to this?
Yeah. So we're looking for folks who are creating something. Perhaps it's using a new technology. Maybe they're using Caramel or AR in something that's really cutting edge. But perhaps they're doing something that is an old idea, but in a totally new way. And maybe they're using a different tool or different technology to really think through a different experience. Or they're creating an app that literally is not there, like the menopause app, the breastfeeding apps. And so we're really looking at sort of this whole range of who the person is, what their experience is. They obviously have to have at least, a first version of an app, because it's so tailored and it's so hands-on, and it's so specific. And we want to be able to help them with as many technology questions as possible. It's not a camp for, I have a great idea. This is, here's my MVP. Now let's talk about the UI, the UX. What frameworks am I using? What's my battery usage? How many things can we do with this person when they're there? And that's why it's so important for us to get the right folks, because we want to get the people who we can help the most. And so, for a lot of the folks that apply and they're not really in the right spot, we encourage them to apply again. It's not a one time and you're out kind of thing. It's a try again when you're a little bit further along. And so, we've done quite a bit of outreach from our partnership management side of folks who aren't quite there yet. And we've already done some outreach to them and try to sort of guide them into these might be some areas you want to focus on, before you reapply.
Super. And I just think we probably have a lot of people watching that are curious, like, when is it? How do I apply? How do I get in? What are your tips and advice for people watching that want to participate?
developer.apple.com/entrepreneur-camp. We'll share that afterwards. I'm happy to share, the URLs. Of course, there's, great tools that you can use to search for things like Entrepreneur Camp at Apple. But yeah, absolutely. We have a great website. We're actually getting ready. We're 1 week out from welcoming our next cohort for Entrepreneur Camp for female founders. We're thrilled. It's slightly on edge that this is going to be our first virtual entrepreneur camp, as you're doing with your conference today. But we've had some good experience so far with our events at Apple, so we're confident that we can pull it off. But we're also really excited because we're announcing dates for our first cohort for Black founders and entrepreneurs, and those dates will be announced very soon. So
very exciting.
So thank you, whoever that was.
So we have only a few minutes left, and I really want to talk about your work with Women at Apple. So can you also just give us an idea for people who have no idea what it is? Just give us an overview.
Yeah. So Women at Apple is one of our DNAs, or Diversity Network Associations. A lot of companies call them ERGs, Employee Resource Groups, but we're Apple. We love the acronym DNA because diversity and inclusion, it truly is part of our DNA. And these programs like Entrepreneur Camp really show that there's so much support for that internally. But Women at Apple is really, it's our charter to foster a real community within Apple. We want to attract, empower, and develop women across Apple, whether that's technologists or support folks. We do it through programming, communications. We have events that really lift women up. We have a great series called Tech Talks, where women leaders will come and talk to everybody. The content is always open to everybody and truly interesting to everybody. But we have women leaders that come and talk about the technology or the product or the group that they lead. And it really just underlines the incredible work that these women are doing in the company, but also, frankly, just how many amazing women leaders there are running teams all over the world. It's a great lesson for me included in unconscious bias. You meet these women, you're like, oh gosh, I never thought when I saw you on campus that you were the person that led this 4,000 person group, or that you were the one that invented this great thing. We have a series we're just kicking off internally about Women Inventor series at Apple, some of the great women who've created patents. So those kinds of events. And we believe this type of community building is just so important to foster this community where women don't just feel like this is where they work, but they feel like this is a place where they feel supported and that they can thrive. And that's, that's the same anywhere. All of these programs that we're doing, you're doing, with women is really to make women feel like they belong, that they're part of this community and that they should be here and that we need them to be here. And so, we're thrilled with what we've been doing through Women at Apple, and it sort of extends, just to quickly give it a little push for some of the work we're doing in diversity in the community. In addition to Entrepreneur Camp and some of the other programs that we have, for our advanced coders, we do a lot of work to build a really diverse pipeline of students coming in learning to code. We have a huge number of free resources available. And for whoever that was that's sharing URLs, it's developer.apple.com/learn. starting, of course, with our free Swift Playground app on iPad and Mac. And for those of you who maybe aren't coders or don't have a coding background, you should definitely download it if you haven't. It's super fun. It's intuitive. It's engaging. It's super gamified. So you don't really feel like you're learning to code. And it's a great way to get started in a very unantagonistic environment. You can do it by yourself. You can do it with no one watching, or you can teach the kids, however you want to do that. And then if you're interested and want to look at the website more, we have just a full gamut of free resources for learning to code. We have Develop in Swift curriculum. We do certifications. We have K through 12 programs. We have an after-school coding club. We do a lot of work with Swift coding courses in universities, and particularly in community colleges. We have partnerships with STEM and diversity organizations like NCWIT, the Good Marshall Fund, HBCUs, Girls Who Code. I'm sure there's more, First Robotics. We have a Swift Scholarship Program as part of WWDC. We have Apple Developer Academies, app accelerators around the world. And of course, to tie right back, they're in Paris at Station F, where, let's face it, I would much rather be with you in person right now. We also have the App Store Mentoring Program, and some of the, our local team works really hard there, to really help engage with some of the young French startups. And I know we've had, incredible success that we've seen on our side from apps coming through the program there. We've had apps co-founded by women that were featured in our International Women's Day campaign, Woomies, who we actually met with last year over there. I know that Food Advisor met with Tim Cook there. And just the range of apps that are coming through your program there. And I think the work that we're doing, we're really excited to be able to support the work that you're doing. We're really grateful for you, Roxanne, and the work that happens at Station F. And the partnership with Apple has been really incredible. And we really hope that we can use it to uplift more women, maybe have more women coming through your program that come then to Entrepreneur Camp and join some of our other programs, so that we can really do the work here and get, more women involved in tech, and really just thriving.
Super. Thank you, Esther. I don't know if you're reading the comments, but people have been just saying, this is amazing. This is great to know. So I think you mentioned a lot. I mean, a lot beyond just the two topics that we had time to cover. A lot of
Apple. And we have this, and we have this. On this, and it's such an important part of, for both of us, of the work that we do. Diversity is really at the heart and soul of the work that we're passionate about. So sorry about you.
Well, thank you so much, Esther. Unfortunately, we have no more time, but it has been such a pleasure having you with us.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.